This might be the most important message you'll hear today, not because it promises success, not because it guarantees happiness, but because somewhere between ambition, loneliness, failure, and hope, there is a truth that almost nobody talks about. And what Elon Musk eventually realized may completely change the way you see your own life. But what happened next surprised even those who believed they understood him. There are moments in life when everything around you looks perfectly normal, yet inside, it feels like something is quietly falling apart. You wake up, follow the same routine, answer the same messages, smile when people expect you to smile, can keep moving because that's what responsible people do. But deep down, a question refuses to disappear. Is this really the life I wanted? Millions of people ask themselves that question every day. Some ask it after losing someone they loved. Others ask it after achieving everything they thought would make them happy. Ironically, the question often becomes louder when life appears successful from the outside. If you've ever felt that way, then this message is for you. When people hear the name Elon Musk, they usually think about rockets lifting into the night sky, electric cars changing an industry, artificial intelligence, impossible deadlines, and a relentless drive to build the future. They imagine confidence, certainty, and unstoppable ambition. But there is another side to every extraordinary journey. Behind every major achievement is a human being forced to make difficult choices, face painful uncertainty, and live with consequences that few people ever see. Public success does not erase private struggles. It simply hides them behind headlines. And perhaps that's the first lesson. People rarely fight the battles you think they do. They fight the ones you never notice. Have you ever looked at someone successful and assumed they had everything figured out? What if that assumption was keeping you from understanding your own life? Because the truth is far more complicated. Throughout his public interviews over the years, Elon has often spoken about persistence, pressure, impossible expectations, and the emotional cost of building ambitious projects. Those conversations reveal something surprisingly human beneath the headlines. Not perfection, pressure, not certainty, responsibility. And responsibility has a strange way of changing people. Imagine carrying dreams so large that failure affects thousands of employees, investors, customers, and families. Every decision becomes heavier, every mistake becomes public, every success immediately creates even bigger expectations. Most people never experience pressure at that scale, but everyone understands emotional weight. Maybe your weight isn't leading a company. Maybe it's taking care of your family. Maybe it's paying bills. Maybe it's trying to save a relationship that feels like it's slowly drifting apart. Different burdens, the same emotional gravity. This is where an unexpected connection begins. Because the human mind doesn't measure stress by headlines. It measures it by meaning. And meaning changes everything. But what happened next shocked everyone who assumed success automatically creates peace. As Elon continued pursuing increasingly ambitious goals, the world celebrated each milestone. New companies grew, historic launches captured global attention, breakthroughs arrived one after another, yet public victories raised a private question that every ambitious person eventually faces. What happens after achieving the goal you thought would finally make you happy? Think about your own life. Have you ever spent months chasing something, believing it would solve everything? A promotion, a relationship, a new home, more money, a fresh start. Then, after finally reaching it, the excitement slowly faded. Suddenly another mountain appeared. Why does that happen? Psychologists often describe this as the mind adapting to achievements faster than we expect. What once felt impossible eventually becomes normal. The finish line quietly moves farther away. That's why external success alone rarely creates lasting fulfillment. The destination changes. Your inner world remains. This is the mystery that countless high achievers eventually encounter. And maybe you've experienced it too. Perhaps you've been waiting for life to begin after one final accomplishment. One more paycheck. One more opportunity. One more relationship. One more chance. But what if life has already begun? What if you've been postponing happiness without realizing it? Yet one question remained unanswered. If success isn't enough, what is? The answer doesn't arrive all at once. It appears in quiet moments that almost nobody notices. A conversation, a failure, an unexpected goodbye, a difficult decision. Sometimes the moments that change us forever don't feel important while they're happening. Only later do we understand what they were trying to teach us. This idea appears again and again in stories of resilience. Not because successful people avoid pain, because eventually they stop running from it. That shift changes everything. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? They begin asking, what is this trying to teach me? Notice how different those questions feel. One creates fear, the other creates growth. Could a single question reshape your entire future? Many people underestimate the power of perspective. The event remains exactly the same, only the meaning changes. and once meaning changes, behavior follows. Behavior becomes habit. Habit becomes character. Character shapes destiny. Simple, quiet, powerful. But the story doesn't end there, because another challenge was quietly developing beneath the surface. Relationships. No matter how ambitious someone becomes, no amount of achievement replaces genuine human connection. People are not machines. They need trust, understanding, and moments where they don't have to prove themselves. This is something every viewer can relate to. Have you ever been surrounded by people and still felt completely alone? Have you ever wished someone would ask how you were really doing instead of assuming everything was fine? Sometimes the strongest looking people are carrying the heaviest emotional load, and sometimes the people who seem distant aren't cold at all. They're exhausted. The truth was far more complicated than anyone expected. What Elon realized at that moment changed everything. Not because it instantly removed every challenge, but because it changed the question. Instead of chasing approval, what if you chased purpose? Instead of fearing failure, what if failure became evidence that you're moving? Instead of comparing your life with everyone else's, what if you measured yourself only against the person you were yesterday? These questions don't produce easy answers. They produce honest ones, and honest answers are usually where transformation begins. Still, one mystery remained. If purpose matters more than approval, why do so many people continue living for other people's expectations? That answer would only become clear after a series of emotional turning points that few saw coming, and what happened next would reveal a lesson far more valuable than success itself. The journey so far has revealed something many people spend years trying to understand. Success can open doors, but it cannot answer the questions that echo in your mind when the room becomes quiet. Ambition can give you direction, but it cannot replace peace. And perhaps the biggest surprise of all is that the strongest people are often carrying invisible emotional weight. But what happened next shocked everyone, because the challenge was no longer about achieving more. It was about understanding what truly mattered. Imagine standing at the top of a mountain you spent years climbing. You expected relief, you expected joy. Instead, you feel silence. Not because the achievement wasn't meaningful, but because your mind is already searching for the next summit. This is one of the greatest psychological traps of modern life. We convince ourselves that happiness lives somewhere in the future. We tell ourselves, once I accomplish this goal, everything will finally make sense. Yet when that day arrives, the feeling lasts only a short while before another goal quietly takes its place. The finish line keeps moving. Have you ever noticed that? Maybe you promised yourself that life would improve after graduation, then after getting a job, then after earning more money, then after finding the right relationship, then after buying a home. Each milestone brought satisfaction, but only temporarily. The truth was far more complicated. Real fulfillment doesn't come from constantly arriving somewhere new. It comes from becoming someone new. That realization changes everything. Throughout many of his public conversations, Elon Musk has emphasized solving meaningful problems rather than chasing comfort. Whether discussing engineering, innovation, or the future of humanity, one theme appears repeatedly. Purpose creates energy that comfort never can. Think about that for a moment. Comfort feels good. Purpose keeps you moving. The two are not always the same. Sometimes purpose asks you to stay awake longer. Sometimes it asks you to fail publicly. Sometimes it asks you to keep believing when nobody else does. Would you still pursue your dream if nobody applauded? That question separates external motivation from internal conviction, and it's one of the hardest questions anyone can answer honestly. But another emotional challenge was quietly unfolding: relationships. No matter how focused a person becomes, meaningful relationships require something ambition cannot replace: presence. You can give someone expensive gifts. You can provide security. You can solve countless problems. But if you aren't emotionally present, something important is still missing. Have you ever been talking with someone who seemed physically close, but emotionally miles away? It leaves an emptiness that's difficult to describe. Modern life makes this easier than ever. Phones vibrate, emails arrive, meetings never seem to end. Days become weeks, weeks become years. One day you realize you've been surviving instead of living. But what happened next shocked everyone. The greatest breakthroughs often begin with the smallest moments. A quiet conversation, a sincere apology, a decision to listen instead of speak, a willingness to admit, I don't have all the answers. Those moments rarely become headlines, yet they often change lives forever. Psychologists have long observed that people don't build trust through perfection, they build trust through authenticity. When someone admits uncertainty, they become more relatable. When someone admits mistakes, they become more human. Perfection creates distance. Honesty creates connection. Think about the people you trust most. Is it because they're flawless, or because they've been genuine with you? The answer reveals something important. Human beings don't connect through achievements. They connect through vulnerability. Yet one question remained unanswered. Why is vulnerability so difficult? Perhaps because we're taught from an early age that strength means hiding weakness. We learn to smile when we're hurting. We pretend everything is fine. We convince ourselves that asking for help makes us appear less capable. But reality tells a different story. The strongest people aren't those who never struggle. They're the ones who continue moving despite their struggles. There's an enormous difference. One denies reality. The other grows through it. What Elon realized at that moment changed everything. Progress isn't about becoming fearless. It's about refusing to let fear make every decision. Imagine waiting until you felt completely confident before taking action. How many opportunities would disappear? How many dreams would remain unfinished? Confidence rarely comes first. Action does. Then experience. Then confidence quietly follows. This simple pattern explains why so many extraordinary achievements begin with uncertainty. No one starts as an expert. Every expert begins as a beginner, willing to look inexperienced. That idea applies far beyond careers. It applies to love, friendship, forgiveness, personal growth, healing. Every meaningful chapter starts with an uncomfortable first step, but another mystery was waiting beneath the surface. Comparison. Perhaps no habit steals more happiness than constantly measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. Someone gets promoted, someone gets married, someone travels the world, someone launches a successful business. Slowly, your own progress begins feeling invisible. Have you ever caught yourself thinking you're behind? If so, you're not alone. Comparison quietly changes gratitude into frustration. It convinces you that your story is late simply because someone else's story looks faster. But life isn't a race with one finish line. It's millions of different journeys happening simultaneously. Different starting points, different obstacles, different dreams, timelines. The truth was far more complicated than social media could ever show. Behind every smiling photo exists a story you haven't heard. Behind every achievement exists sacrifices you didn't witness. Behind every confident person exists moments of doubt. Remember that, because appearances rarely tell the complete story. What if the person you're comparing yourself to secretly wishes they had something you built? Also, perspective changes everything. Gratitude changes perspective, and gratitude changes behavior. Instead of asking, why don't I have what they have? Try asking, what do I already have that I haven't appreciated? Notice how your emotional state begins to shift, not because your circumstances changed, because your attention changed. Where attention goes, emotion follows. That may be one of the simplest, yet most powerful truths you'll ever hear. Still, another question remained. If purpose, honesty, and gratitude are so important, why do so many people still feel lost? The answer wasn't obvious. It wasn't hidden inside another achievement. It wasn't waiting inside another promotion. It wasn't found through endless approval from strangers. It was discovered somewhere much quieter, inside the courage to become completely honest with yourself. That kind of honesty is uncomfortable. It asks difficult questions. Are you living your own dream, or someone else's expectation? Are your daily habits leading toward the life you want? If nothing changed over the next 5 years, would you be proud of the direction you're heading? Most people avoid questions like these, not because they don't matter, because they matter too much. But what happened next would reveal a lesson that tied every previous discovery together. And once that final piece became clear, the entire story took on a completely different meaning. By now, one truth has become impossible to ignore. Success without purpose feels empty. Achievement without connection feels lonely. And a life spent chasing other people's expectations slowly becomes a life that no longer feels like your own. Yet one question remained unanswered. If the answers aren't found in money, status, or endless recognition, where are they found? What Elon realized at that moment changed everything, and the lesson reaches far beyond key, business, technology, or innovation. There comes a point in almost every person's life when the noise becomes overwhelming. Everyone has advice. Everyone has expectations. Everyone seems to know what you should do next. But in the middle of all those voices, one voice becomes almost impossible to hear. Your own. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to lose yourself while trying to please everyone else? You say yes when you want to say no. You stay silent when something hurts. You continue walking a path simply because you've already spent years on it. Psychologists call this the sunk cost effect. We often continue investing in situations that no longer serve us simply because we've already invested so much. Relationships, careers, habits, dreams. Sometimes the hardest decision isn't starting something new. It's having the courage to let go of something that no longer belongs in your future. The truth was far more complicated than most people realized. Growth isn't only about building. Sometimes it's about releasing. Releasing fear, releasing resentment, releasing the need to control everything. Think about carrying a heavy backpack every day. After a while, you stop noticing the weight because you've become used to it. Then one day you finally put it down. Only then do you realize how exhausted you've been. Emotional burdens work the same way. Many people carry guilt for years. Some carry regret. Others carry disappointment over opportunities they missed. The weight becomes familiar, but familiar doesn't mean healthy. What if the very thing slowing you down isn't your future? What if it's the emotional weight you're refusing to leave behind? But what happened next shocked everyone. The greatest breakthroughs rarely begin with a dramatic moment. More often, they begin with an honest conversation with yourself. Not the version of yourself you show the world, the real one. The one who knows your fears, your doubts, your insecurities, your hopes. Imagine standing in front of a mirror with no audience, no filters, no expectations. Just one simple question. What kind of person am I becoming? Notice the wording. Not, what have I achieved? Not, what do people think of me? But, what kind of person am I becoming? That question shifts your attention away from temporary success and toward lasting character. Character quietly shapes every decision you make. It's revealed when nobody is watching. It's tested when life becomes difficult. And it's strengthened every time you choose integrity over convenience. Throughout public discussions about innovation and problem solving, Elon Musk has repeatedly emphasized first principles thinking. Bolsten first, question their most fundamental truths before rebuilding from there. That same idea can transform your personal life. What if you applied first principles thinking to yourself? Strip away everyone else's opinions. Remove comparison. Ignore fear for just a moment. What's left? What genuinely matters to you? Not what impresses people. Not what gains approval. What brings meaning? That answer may already exist inside you. Perhaps you've simply been too busy to hear it. Yet another mystery remained. Why do difficult experiences often become our greatest teachers? At first, pain feels unfair. Failure feels personal. Rejection feels permanent. But with time, many people discover something unexpected. The experiences they once wished had never happened became the very experiences that shaped their wisdom. Think about your own life. Can you remember a difficult season that eventually taught you something invaluable? At the time, it probably felt unbearable. Looking back, it became part of your strength. This doesn't mean pain is enjoyable. It means pain often carries lessons that comfort never teaches. What Elon realized at that moment changed everything. Resilience isn't built during easy days. It's built during the days when quitting seems reasonable, but you keep moving anyway. That quiet decision changes people from the inside, not overnight. One choice at a time, one habit at a time, one conversation at a time. This is how transformation actually happens. Not through one inspirational speech, not through one lucky opportunity. Through consistent decisions repeated long after motivation fades. That's the part many people never see. Motivation starts the journey. Discipline carries it forward. Purpose gives it direction. But there's one more piece that often goes unnoticed. Forgiveness. Not only forgiving other people, forgiving yourself. How many people spend years punishing themselves for one mistake? One failed relationship, one poor decision, one missed opportunity, one moment they wish they could erase. Yet every single day they continue replaying it. The past becomes a prison built from memory. What if you opened the door? What if you accepted that your mistakes explain part of your story, but they don't? Must define your future. That's where healing begins. Not by pretending nothing happened, or simple, by refusing to let yesterday control tomorrow. The truth was far more freeing than anyone expected. Your past can inform you without imprisoning you. Read that again in your mind. Your past can inform you. It does not have to imprison you. Imagine how differently you would approach tomorrow if you truly believed that. Would you take the risk you've been avoiding? Would you make the phone call you've been postponing? Would you finally begin writing the next chapter instead of rereading the previous one? Perhaps that's exactly what you've needed all along. Not permission from the world, permission from yourself. Still, one final question remained unanswered. If becoming your best self requires courage, honesty, resilience, gratitude, and forgiveness, where do you begin? The answer isn't complicated. You begin today. Not when life becomes perfect. Not when fear disappears. Not when someone else believes in you. You begin with the next decision you make after this moment. Because every meaningful journey starts exactly the same way. With one small choice. One intentional step. One quiet promise that you refuse to give up on the person you're capable of becoming. But what happened next would reveal the most powerful lesson of all. A lesson that brings every piece of this journey together and may completely change the way you see your future forever. Everything has led to this moment. We've explored ambition, purpose, relationships, resilience, gratitude, forgiveness, and the quiet battles that so many people carry without anyone noticing. Along the way, one truth became clearer with every step. Success alone cannot complete a person. Recognition cannot replace peace, and no achievement is worth losing yourself in the process. Yet one question remained unanswered. If today were the beginning of a completely new chapter in your life, what would you choose to do differently? Take a moment and really think about it. Not tomorrow, not next month, today. Because the most important decisions rarely arrive with dramatic music or perfect timing. They appear in ordinary moments like this one. A moment when you quietly decide that your future will no longer be controlled by your fears. The truth was far more complicated than simply working harder. Many people believe that changing their life requires one massive breakthrough. They wait for the perfect opportunity, the perfect relationship, the perfect job, or the perfect amount of confidence before taking action. But life doesn't usually work that way. Real transformation happens quietly. It happens when you wake up one morning and choose discipline over excuses. It happens when you replace one negative habit with one positive habit. It happens when you stop comparing your journey to someone else's. It happens when you decide that your past is a lesson, not a life sentence. Those decisions rarely make headlines, but they change lives. What Elon realized at that moment changed everything. The future is not built by one extraordinary day. It's built by thousands of ordinary days, lived with intention. Think about that. Every great company begins with one idea. Every meaningful friendship begins with one conversation. Every lasting relationship begins with one honest moment. Every remarkable life is built one decision at a time. So why do we expect our own transformation to happen overnight? Perhaps we've been asking the wrong question. Instead of asking, how can I change my entire life? Maybe we should ask, what is the next right step? That question feels different. It's smaller, it's clearer, and most importantly, it's possible. But what happened next shocked everyone. The greatest obstacle wasn't failure, it wasn't rejection, it wasn't uncertainty. It was the belief that there was still plenty of time. How many dreams have been postponed because someone said, I'll start next year?